Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, breadwinners, thread spinners, you're now watching the TNF podcast. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Click on that little bell for notifications and do all that good YouTube generic stuff. All right, coming up on the 21st of July, that's a Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Excuse me. Apparently, there's a difference between Eastern Standard Time and there's also another Eastern. I don't know what time, but I was told that that was inaccurate. So Eastern time, 5 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, we're going to have Richie Mancuso from Wisdom in Chains, the guitar player, who is also returning. And also returning today, a good friend of mine. He's been on my show before, went on his show when he was based in Greenville, and now he is currently up in the Big Apple. Slaying up there, doing comedy, doing all the good performing stuff, living the dream of being a comedian in the city. Ladies and gentlemen, returning to the TNet podcast, David Bakker. What's up, man?
Jay, how's it going, dude? I'm ready to run through a friggin' wall after that intro. Holy shit. That was the shit, dude. I was jamming about I don't know if they could see me before. Dude, that was awesome. That was new. I didn't see that before. That was cool.
Okay, yeah, that I've been running the intro, the actual intro itself, in various like permutations in the past, but yeah, no, it's fun, man. It's like
That
let's make
permutation
it a
was a
show. Let's
good
have a good time.
permutation.
Let's do all that good stuff.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, man. And you're up in New York.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How's that going for you, my friend?
Oh, it's amazing. It's hard to, I guess, just sum up, but yeah, dude, I absolutely love it. We're about a year in of being here, and yeah, it's it's really fun. It's really fun.
Remember when you told me you were going? I was like, "Are you crazy, man? Like, who moves to a big city in 2022? I guess it was, yeah."
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's weird living here because I'm from the Midwest originally, so I don't know. Midwest people, we have like this romantic idea of what New York is like. We like associate everything through like 90s sitcoms and like Friends, Seinfeld. Like I don't know. You have this idealized version that's like kind of a fantasy, and then you get here, and there's a lot of aspects that are just super shitty and really hard and like not comfortable, but it's a lot of chaos. It feels like I don't know. There's always stuff going on, and you feel like you're constantly moving. The pace of life is way faster than than the Midwest or South Carolina. So a little bit of adjusting, but it's a blast, dude. For comedy, there's so much going on, and the city itself has so much to offer too. So yeah, it's the shit.
What do you think the biggest challenge has been to you being in New York?
Well, not knowing anyone. So moving up here a year ago, like not having relationships in the comedy scene to start. We basically like dropped it from outer space. We didn't know anybody had to. Maybe that's not the best way to do it. You should probably like have connections coming in. So
Oh yeah.
we literally just picked an apartment, which was more or less like throwing a dart at a wall. Like we didn't really know. We picked a spot in Astoria. My roommate, she's also a comedian, Alexis Ramirez. Some people, she's a Greenville comic. But yeah, so we just started out literally going. There's like websites for like what mics and shows are available, and we literally just started putting those addresses in on our GPS, and then just started showing up at open mics, not knowing anyone. So the hardest part is just you don't know how you stack up. Like there's a lot of comics here, so many, and it's a little bit intimidating, I guess. And just not, I'm like a relationship guy. I'm like kind of, I don't know. I like to have friends. So to not have any friends to start and just going through and like nobody gives a shit about who you are or like
Right.
nobody's gonna give you any like uh nobody's gonna do you any favors. Nobody's gonna, laugh at you just to humor you. So you got to work for laughs, and so yeah, it takes a little while to find your people and make friends. But after a year, like we've built like a really really nice group of friends, and the community aspect has definitely started to establish itself. So yeah, now that we have people we know, we kind of know how to get around, and it's starting to be a lot of fun.
And at least you went there with somebody that you know. I mean, you said you didn't know anybody moving there, but like, having that kind of support system, so to speak, while you're there, like, oh, hey, there's a grocery store right down the street that they've got
Yeah,
really cheap prices. I didn't have none of that shit going to LA. So like,
yeah,
at least you have that, and you can kind of like, I don't know. It sounds kind of weird. You're talking about relationship. It almost sounds like a relationship to where it's like you can be there for each other type thing. And like,
yeah, kind of totally
yeah,
platonic, but yeah, it is nice to have a friend, especially because she's a woman, and that's definitely
not
there's
allowed. Remember we had this
we're
discussion?
not allowed. Okay, yeah, we can't talk about gender.
No, no, no,
Uh,
no. Remember, this was a while back saying you were like, oh yeah, I've got like girlfriends. I was like, dude, you shouldn't have girlfriends. You're like, oh no, you should.
Platonic girlfriends.
Platonic
Dude, you're
girlfriends.
right about that. I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
I'm probably, yeah, there's probably a lot of books and schools of thought that say don't do that. But
One or two.
yeah,
I have like one or two, but like, yeah, no, it can't. Like, it just. Just from listening to relationship coaches and doing things like that, like if you want a girlfriend, don't have girl friends. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. No, that's definitely good advice. Um, the point I guess about it helping with the comedy aspect is there's not that many female comedians. I'm just another straight white guy in a sea of other straight white guys. But there's much fewer girls, so she kind of is like popular amongst and like everybody's like, oh my gosh, there's a new girl in the comedy, and then like, oh, who's this
Oh
other
yeah.
freaking guy that's like around, and so making friends together, I mean, that helped totally, just to be honest, like, but yeah, in general, yeah, you got to watch the platonic female friend thing too. Totally agree with what you're saying about that, but
It
get around
reminds
to
me,
it.
trying to quit smoking, so I've been doing Jolly Ranchers. Jesus Christ. Um,
You're quitting smoking and sucking
let's
on
go back
Jolly
to
Ranchers.
Jolly Ranchers. Yeah, I'm trying. Like I said, trying to quit smoking, and I just shit.
Good for you, dude.
Uh, been about a week, but let's get back to the New York thing later, but like, this is in kind of the collective ethos right now. Like I've talked on this show and on other people's podcasts ad nauseum about my political beliefs and how I believe that the way that the world should be run. I don't really do that anymore, because some people don't really interpret it that way. They think I'm just like an evil, like terrible person, and I would rather foster good conversations with people based on culture and arts instead of politics. But
Sure.
this is kind of hard to ignore because it happened yesterday and it was all over the fucking news. But Trump got shot. And, I don't know how you feel about it, but, you know, to me, it just seems like if you don't see kind of what's going on right now, and if you're just like, well, they should have taken him out type thing, you might have to kind of reevaluate your decisions as an
Yeah.
American. What do you kind of take away from all this?
Well, I saw the news pretty immediately. A lot of my college buddies and family follow politics very closely, so I was getting hit up right away. I got fired up, man, as soon as I saw it. I mean, I it was like, I don't know. Whenever there's a big news event, this is really bad, but I get excited and engaged. I want to see what's going on. I want to be in tune with it. Like, even if it's an awful thing, I'm interested. So,
Right.
and yeah, yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it's not surprising, the uh the level of like how tense it is between the left and the right. It was building and building, so it's not surprising that somebody took a shot. But I was so proud of President Trump, dude. I mean, and I've been a Republican Trump supporter since 2016, and always, I don't know. I've kind of been kind of quiet about it. I feel like a lot of people have. Back in 2016, there were those campaign signs that said the silent majority. There's a lot of people that, support and like his policies, but they're kind of afraid to be public with it because of all the backlash from the left they'd get. But dude, after seeing that yesterday, like, I'm a proud Trump supporter. He's like, I don't mind being vocal about that. Like, the dude's taking bullets to the head. I kind of feel like he deserves, vocal support from people that know that he's got good intentions for the country. And
Right.
I mean, I think it's awful, like the lengths people are going to try and not allow him to get back in office. But the fact that he stood up and is fighting, and the bravery and the balls, dude. He's a fucking G, dude. I mean, a lot of, like, he's a showman, right? Like, a lot of people, you could be cynical and say, oh, he's a reality TV star, and a lot of that's just for show. But dude, the guy just took a bullet to the head and stood up and made it clear that, like, you're not going to intimidate me. Like, I'm not going anywhere. You better fucking kill me next time. Like, it kind of made me feel more. It made me feel more confident. Like, I should be. If he could do that, like, it's inspiring. I thought it was very inspiring. Sad that it is coming to this, but I think it's necessary. I mean, I think what's going on, like, I don't know. We need strength and leadership, and I think he embodies that. And yeah, crazy moment. And that photo that they took, some of those photos, I was just like, holy shit, those are iconic, like, photos. And the whole
Yeah,
thing was surreal because it happened so fast, but the whole thing felt like, yeah, like apocalyptic, legendary. Like, this was a big moment. And yeah, I haven't even really it's almost still like you kind of have the day after kind of in shock factor. Like, I'm still processing it.
And
But
that's kind of why, a lot of people were like knee jerk reacting of, oh, by the way, Mother's Day passed this year. And I was thinking about sending you a message on Mother's Day and being like, hey, dude, happy Mother's Day,
yeah.
but I figured you were probably only dealing with it. This guy hates Mother's Day, by the way.
What?
Or
Did we
or the
talk about
phony
that?
the phony display of affection, as you like to
Yes.
describe it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love my mom and moms in general. But yeah, that was annoying me at that point. The whole Instagram, I love you, mom, bullshit. No, that's about your,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, to like, yeah, I didn't want to have like a knee jerk reaction like the day of. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna, because even through my mind, I voted for Trump. I had to think. I was like, okay, is this a false flag? I was like, it is. I can say I trust a politician and I vote for a politician, all day long. People are human beings at the end of the day, and I've been screwed over by people that I trusted before. But, you almost have to wonder, like, because this is an election year, because of all the crazy shit that has transpired, is it a false flag? And I'm like, I don't think, first of all, I don't think Trump has the ego to endure what he has for the past fucking 8 years. I don't think he has it in him. I don't think he would just allow himself to be like lambasted and waylaid like that. And secondly, like, you're getting shot, like you're trying to like stage getting shot. I mean, that's huge. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of people there. And it's like, I think just what happened was it was apparently they saw this kid and they did nothing. Like the Secret Service. Have you heard this?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
heard
they saw this
eyewitness
kid up there on
reports.
the roof and they were just like, yo, there's somebody up there on the roof. He's got a gun. Do something. And they didn't
Hmm.
fucking do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounded like they maybe weren't sure of, I don't know. I don't know how you could not be
Fucking
sure.
check,
It it looked
They
like the Secret Service snipers had them in their scopes because they took them out immediately. So they must have
right.
kind of had a suspicion.
Right.
Maybe they were concerned about giving that order because, like, he hadn't shot yet. There was some uncertainty and hesitation.
They could have like went up there and been like, "Hey man, like what's up? What are you doing up there?"
Yeah. Yeah. I saw reports this morning that it was like a kid who 20 years old and had been bullied maybe in high school, and it was kind of an awkward guy. And but everything from those reports seemed to indicate that it was a lone shooter situation, not a mastermind or not a coordinated plot.
It's never that way. Never. It
I
never has been
yeah,
that way.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how
It's
the hell he
very
got
true.
up there. I don't know, or how they missed it,
Man.
but
What is like the political situation like for comedy up in like New York? Are you, I mean, I know you said that like, you've kind of had to be like low key and everything, but like has has that kind of shifted as far as like the tides of how people feel about certain things?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I think the comedians themselves are probably far more moderate or maybe even center right. I don't even know. But the thing that annoys me is the safe thing to do in New York is if you're punching a direction, punch in the favor of the left, a favorable
Right.
point to the left. There's not very many comics doing like edgy stuff that's pro right wing ideas because that's deemed like suicide. Like, oh no, the audience could never be on board with that. But the I mean, it's not about what the comedians' insecurities are. To me, that's more about insecurity. If we're always going, you know, we're too afraid to make a point that's interpreted as anti women or anti whatever. Not that you should shit on women just to shit on, but like uh it's really about what the audience where the audience is at, which is where the collective, where people are just in the general consciousness. Like, so I think where real funny is trying to go a little bit more, like say some things that were people were afraid to say. And I think there's risk in doing that, but I think there's a lot of potential, truth in that. And I think it will resonate with audiences in a broader sense, even in a place like New York. I think people are kind of getting a little sick of the safe playing with kid gloves kind of stuff, PC kind of stuff. Not that you should do that just to do that. I mean, I don't do a lot of political humor anyway. My stuff is a lot more personal. So, and just how I feel and interactions and stories that I have, I don't tend to do that. But you know, it's fun to have a joke idea that's a little edgy and go and try it and see what people will go for. But yeah, I don't think it's as far left as you might assume, thinking about New York. I think it's, but that's just me, and it's actually different within New York. Brooklyn is definitely more like PC and left leaning. Manhattan is a little more down the middle, and then Queens is kind of also pretty down the middle. Um, but yeah, it's a mixed bag. But I think people are a little more open minded than in terms of just audiences. And in New York, you can get audiences from all over the world. So, um,
It's interesting too. You look at like the 80s, and you look at the map of like Republican electors like in each state. Like I don't think there was a single blue state like in 84 or something like that. Like
yeah,
Reagan won by like a landslide. And I always think that that's probably going to happen. And fuck, Reagan was, they tried to shoot him too,
yeah.
which is crazy, because it's like I was having this discussion with my mother. I was like, "You've seen this 3 times in your lifetime, that isn't that crazy? Like,
So she
with
saw
Kennedy and
Kennedy.
then Kennedy, Reagan, and then this. It's like
Yeah,
that's got to be fucking wild. But
yeah,
then it's like, back to what I was saying about the tide of everything turning. It's like, California was a fucking red state in 1984. That's insane. Like that's insane. You will never. I don't want to say never because it's like the tide is shifting and people are starting to realize how like a fucking the president has to be shot at for these people to be like, oh, it wasn't enough like COVID and all this other shit. It's like,
hmm,
oh, and even some are just like, well, the hardcore punk rock scene has, a huge slant to the left, and they're all still like in like denial. Like it's so funny to me, like how like
Yeah.
they don't perceive this as, oh yeah, they almost took out the guy we don't like, so that's good. And it's like completely disregarding the fact that they fucking shot at one of the fucking presidents, one of the former presidents,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
somebody
I
that's
was.
running for re-election. This shit
Yeah.
happens in like Venezuela and shit like that, you know. You mean to fucking tell me like that's not an issue of concern to you? Like, because it could
Totally.
be anybody, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I was getting irritated because I was in the comment sections yesterday after the posts about the shooting, and I couldn't believe some of the things that left-leaning people were saying, like, "Oh, I sorry, like, too bad that he missed," or like,
Yeah.
"This was obviously staged." Um, "Oh, this is the consequence of your pro-gun policies. If you would have banned guns, you wouldn't have been shot. It's your own fault." Somebody comment, like, a lot of people didn't know I was a Trump supporter. So when I started putting things on my story, they were like, "Oh my God, you like Trump?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they started to say, "Oh, well, he's a rapist, grab him by, he deserved it." I'm like, he just got shot in the head.
Right.
And then they said, "Would you be this way if Biden got shot?" And I would be like, "Yeah." I would be like, "That's awful. I don't
Yeah.
want Biden to get shot. I don't want anybody to get shot." Like, that's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
honestly, if Biden had gotten shot in the ear and he stood up and pumped his fist, I'd be like, "Respect, bro. Okay. I thought you were about
He
to
would get
die.
up.
But
He would.
dude, maybe you're lucid. Or if not, you still got some fucking gas in the tank, dude. Okay."
You know, it's funny because I was working at a factory right before I went back to California initially, and I, you know, have heavy. I mean, I don't think there was any Biden supporters there, to be truthful. But you know, I was like, you know, I don't really like Biden, but you know, I don't wish death upon the guy.
Right.
I don't really wish death upon anybody. And then one of the guys that was there was like, he was like, I do. I wish that motherfucker would hang like that. And I was
Yeah, dude, even the pro Trump, I gotta chill.
I'm like, no, like,
Dude, it's
no.
politics, man.
Right. There's a difference between having staunch viewpoints and being a fucking fanatic, you know? Like,
It is weird how it gets so intense and like almost theatrical on like the national stage. Where like if you would go to like a local city council meeting or local legislature and just observe any like lower level bureaucracy, how freaking boring and just
like, yeah,
paperwork and like
how fucking
nothing
milk toast it
interesting is
is.
going on. Like the functioning of a government and is like
Right.
so nothing. But we make it into like American Idol and say the stakes are like, which I guess they are. Some of the stakes are high, but I
The
don't
federal
know.
government is not even supposed to have as much control as it does. You
Right.
know, the federal government is like supposed to levy taxes and maintain like a standing military. I think
Yep.
that's it. I
Yep.
think that's the only requirements of the federal government.
Yeah.
Anything else is just extraneous and bloated. And like, truthfully, the I mean, the fucking way it's always supposed to been was the states were supposed to handle shit at their level, and then they go to a federal level for like minor shit, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's the opposite, you know. It's like,
Mhm.
and yeah, people don't understand that. And where were we going with this? The fact that um you know, we're talking about people, like we're posting things online and people are uh yeah, just they're posting a bunch of insensitive shit, and then they're, you know, they don't
Th-
understand the function of government, and they think that, you know, hey, whatever it takes, they treat it like a sporting event, like whatever it takes to take out that
Totally.
person, you know, we're gonna do it, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like,
I think
I, I hate that
part of
about
what I
it.
was surprised too about the reaction is it was a big reaction, but it wasn't quite as big as I maybe expected. I feel like we've seen so much in as Americans in terms of the craziness of the event has to be like higher and higher for us to react. Like I feel like this if this happened 20 years ago, people would be like, "Holy shit."
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, okay, well, he got shot at. A big deal. I was like, big deal? Like, remember
Right. E-
JFK? This is
even I
insane.
was like, I found out about it and I was kind of like mildly concerned for about like 15 or 20 minutes. Then I went
Right.
back to my video game, because it's like
Exactly.
it is.
What's
It's
happened
exactly
to
as you
us?
say. We're just so inundated with all this like doom and gloom bullshit
Yeah.
that when it what are we gonna have to see in order for it to get like you know to where we really start to be like wake up out of our complacency,
I don't
because like
know.
the
And I
fucking
think it's
president was
COVID. I
shot and
think
even some people are just like, I don't know, I don't know,
I think COVID pulled the rug out, dude. I think COVID destabilized everything so much, and it was so insane for people to process that post COVID, I don't know what it would take to really, I don't know, get a reaction from people. uh, but yeah, it's scary. I don't know where that leads. I really don't. I don't know.
nuclear bomb.
Yeah, that would. But even then, you'd be like, well, what is it? In Idaho? Okay.
It's not
Call
that
me.
close.
Call me when I can hear the alarm, and then maybe I'll go to my basement. If I die, I die. Like people are like, we're just
My
like,
skin
fuck
ain't
it, dude.
bubbling, I ain't worried.
We're in this bitch. It's weird. We have weird times.
If I can't fry bacon on my forearm, who the fuck cares? I don't.
Yeah, I can't
Doesn't
control
affect
it.
me. Don't give a shit.
Yeah, just wake me up when. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Oh man. Doom and gloom. Yeah, fucking the world is gonna be crazy here within the next year. I promise. Fucking that was the thing. I was like, well, fuck. The only way they can defeat him now is if they fucking kill the motherfucker, and it's like they fucking tried it, So
yep,
it's like, what's gonna happen? But
yeah,
so back to you being in New York and stuff. You say like some of the biggest challenges are not um not knowing a lot of people, and how people are can kind of be unsupportive of you initially. um what do you see as kind of like being your goals in being in New York within, I don't know, probably in the next 5 years or so? Like
five
how do
years.
you yeah, what do you plan to do to kind of like uh break out a little bit and start to,
Sure.
really get as much momentum as you'd like to?
Yeah. Well, number one, I want to just get as good at comedy as possible, which involves performing as much as you can, writing as much as you can, and also the end goal would be, or what I would view as like success after, in a 3 to 5 year span, would be to be passed at some of the bigger comedy clubs in New York, to be a regular performing paid comedian at those clubs. That to me would be incredible. That's like a kind of validation that you're good at what you do. People will pay you for it, and you're getting to perform in front of good audiences consistently. Not that any audiences are bad, but the comedy clubs in New York are really cool. Um, but it's like a process. So like I maybe you should think about it a little bit more on a day-to-day basis, but on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, I try to enjoy everything I get to do. Uh, I don't know. I feel like I have a whole other career outside of comedy that I still do during the day, and it's so great that I have that, and the fact that they let me come to New York, like I I just I really love being here, and I just pinched myself, reminding myself that, dude, I'm in New York performing comedy. Like just that fact alone, I made a sign that just this is how lame I am. I make like motivational signs for myself to keep myself. I made a sign with the New York skyline in the back, and it says "It's all gravy," like, which is a little corny, but
Hmm.
just to remind myself that it's a blessing just to be performing here, and
As
yeah,
corny as we think that shit is, though, like the whole like positive reinforcement, like that, like Stuart Smalley, like I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Like there's
yeah,
some like credence to that, like positive reinforcement in your brain, So nah, nothing
hmm,
wrong with that. Think and
yeah,
Grow Rich, same shit. I think I
yeah,
talked about that on your show. Like
yeah,
that show or that book is like it's all about that like manifestation and positive
Totally.
reinforcement and shit. Like
It,
that's a game changer right there. No shit,
yeah.
man.
And I mean, I don't know. You try to learn things too. Like you're constantly learning about yourself, which sounds kind of weird. You're because you don't, I don't know, it's hard to get to know who you really are until you kind of do. And with stand up, that's what it is. It's like a testing process of like what resonates, how do I be really honest, and how do I figure out what I really want to say and be the most confident, fully formed version of myself. That's how I kind of view comedy. And that involves things like building your confidence. Like that's something that I'm uh, always trying to work on. And then the other thing I always come back to is fun. Is people have kind of told me, like people see me and then they're like, they'll tell me stuff that I don't know. They're like, oh yeah, it just seems like you like to have fun on stage. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is like what and I was like, yeah, okay. And then I like make a note, remember to have fun. And that like even though I was doing that unconsciously anyway, like that's a part of who I am. I love to have fun. I'm actually grateful for any human beings, even if it's like 5 people. Like I'm like, dude, fuck yeah, there's 5 people that came here to listen to me talk. What do I? Well, I'm gonna have as much. Like I'm gonna try to connect with those people and have fun and enjoy that moment. And
Sure.
yeah, so remind myself to have, and that can kind of help encourage you when like these long-term goals are maybe a couple years out. I'm not like, oh fuck, I'm not at the Comedy Cellar or like wherever. But and then I'm a big like repetition and just like a lot of the comics here have such good work ethics of going to open like every day, whether they feel like it or not. And I think putting in that effort on like a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, you may not see the progress in a short time span, but like over time, the compounding effect of that is really cool. And also in the process of showing up to all these places, you're building friendships with all the other comedians, and they're so nice. And then that kind of leads to more opportunities, and then it kind of just sort of goes from there. Um, so yeah.
Now you're still doing your podcast too, and that's got to be a great opportunity, like being up in New York, because then you have access to, some of the more reputable, well-known comedians. Have you made any sort of headway as far as that's concerned? Like, are there any big guests that are coming up on the "I did this instead of killing myself" podcast that either you can talk about or you can
Yeah.
talk about, or
Well, dude, you kind of calling me out. So thanks for shouting out the podcast. I did this instead of killing myself. I
hell yeah.
it's on pause right now. So I
Oh,
paused it in April.
oh,
But still check it out. If anybody's listening, there's 150 episodes, including the one with Jay and a lot of comedians in the Southeast. Episode with David Keckner, Brent Pella, Dave Landau, some bigger
Landau
name
one's
guests,
great.
as well as a bunch of local comics you've never heard of, but who are amazing people. So yeah, I decided to pause the podcast in April, and the reason I decided to pause it is because we're producing a weekly in-person live comedy show in Astoria. So I wanted to shout that out too. I don't know if any of your listeners are in New York or whatever visit, but we have a show. It's called OnlyFriends Comedy on Instagram, and it's at a restaurant, French restaurant, Toodles and French, every Saturday night at 10 o'clock. So that's been really great. Every week we book like 6 comedians from the city, and that's given us an opportunity to. It's not a podcast, obviously, but it has some of the indirect benefits of that. We've met a lot of comedians, had comics on from out of state, and it's a pretty good little show. It's we put a lot of effort into it. So I paused the podcast because of the work that it took to do a weekly in-person comedy show. Alexis and me, it's kind of a lot to do the booking and the equipment and running the show. And then I was doing the podcast editing on the weekends too, so it was a lot. But now that we've kind of settled into a groove, I'm probably going to bring the podcast back soon. Um,
Nice.
which you're totally right. That has a lot of good benefits in terms of networking and building deeper connections. I love just sitting down and talking to somebody for 2 hours. You
Yeah.
really uninterrupted. I love doing that. So
Yeah.
you definitely want to bring it back.
Well, and these exchanges too, like that's one thing that I've learned as far as like doing the show is like, okay, let's catch up in a few years or whatever, like being able to have you on the show was in 2022, and then I'm like, all right, let's give it some time and kind of reconnect with people and like see where you're at, and like it's been a minute since you did the show, and like a lot of stuff has happened in your life, being like I said, being up in New York, putting the podcast on hold, and then just all your life endeavors and your journeys, like a lot can happen in 2 years, so it's kind of cool to be able to pick up where you left off too, and then it's like,
Totally.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and I'm excited. We're both still doing
opportunities
stuff.
and
Like I'm excited you're still doing this, and it looks awesome. Like and yeah, I love to see creative people doing stuff. It's really cool.
you just moved. What was the reason for moving? You found like a better spot, or
Dude, we had to upgrade, man. I'm a little embarrassed to share this, but our first place was not the nicest. We had do you know what like we had a 5-story walk up. Do you know what those kind of apartments are?
no?
Okay,
I
so
mean,
it's
I'm
like an
sure I do,
old
but describe it.
yeah, so it's an old building, I think built in like the early 1900s, and there's no elevator, and there's these narrow staircases. It's the 5th floor, but there's like 10 flights of stairs, and nobody wants to live up there because it's impossible moving stuff. And
Sure.
so we were like, wow, this is great, affordable rent, and it's available. I wonder why nobody took it. And then we got there, like, oh yeah, that's why, because it's so. It was fine, but the building was so old. They had a little bit of a bug issue, which so we had to deal with bugs in the kitchen a little bit. That was getting really old. And yeah, towards the end of our lease we were like, dude, let's get a nicer place. Let's just up our budget and spend a little more. And we added a third roommate to help with that. So we got a really nice place also in Astoria, and I'm super psyched. It's they just renovated it, and it feels like a much nicer place to live.
No
Um,
vehicle though.
I do a vehicle.
You
Yeah.
do have a vehicle.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought
Yeah.
everybody said you don't need a vehicle in New York.
I know. Screw them, dude. They're wrong. You can survive, although you'll get 1,000 parking tickets. But that's what I have to combat. The guys who give those tickets, they're like my enemy. I hate those
Oh
guys.
God, yeah.
You gotta move the car a lot. You gotta do the alternate side parking. Watch out for the fire hydrants. Watch the
I went
timer.
months in LA without getting one, almost like a whole year, and then I got one, and it was like I got like 3 or 4 after that. It was so
Dude, that's
bad.
impressive, man. That's so
Yeah,
impressive. Dude, I
yeah.
was so
It
bad.
was.
I got 20 parking tickets, and this was when I
Shit.
first moved here. No, I have more probably, but I didn't know how serious they did the enforcement, and then they towed my car when I was on vacation
No
for
shit.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, got impounded, and
Because of the tickets.
because the tickets, yeah, they
I
called
didn't
me.
know they could
They
do
call it
that
a
shit.
scofflaw. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a Seinfeld episode. Newman gets his car impounded because he didn't pay his ticket. So I was like, Newman, it's so humiliating, dude. When they take your car, when the government takes something, and you're like, "Why you can't just take that?" But they can. And then when
How
there's,
dare you?
yeah, I know. I was like, when the cop like took me to get it out of impound, I felt like I was like, what it must be like to go to jail. And like they have this gate, and you have to like be escorted back and update your tags, and they like watch you do it. I was like, dude, this is so degrading. We're two human beings, like what are we doing? What role
Yeah.
is the cop to me, and why is this just feels weird, and it felt really bad. So as soon as I got the car out, I was like, okay, I got to be better about these freaking tickets. But
You
outside of
have a
that,
car. Do you feel like the car is advantageous to you having it? Like, do you ever really
huge.
need to go anywhere that requires a car?
Yeah, I love having it. I've because I did I was a sales rep for a while. As sales reps for at my company, we don't have an office, so you spend so much time driving to your different accounts. So um, I love driving. I just feel safe in my car, and I love
Sure.
just jamming out to music, and it. I can't stand the subway because people are so depressed on the subway. I don't. They're like they're just checked out. It bums me out to see these people on the subway. So just driving, you're in your own space, and my favorite thing is driving late at night in Brooklyn or Astoria, where they have bridges you go over where you see all of Manhattan, and you get the music on, you play a little Kanye, and then you're just like, shit, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
you quoted me. No,
what's that?
no, I was thinking of who was it? I quoted this in another show where it was Kendrick Lamar like driving up and listening to like smoking weed, driving through the night, yeah, man, that was my shit like back in the day.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You probably did that in LA. I bet they got some
Oh
incredible
God, yeah,
views.
like all the time, man. Like, I mean, and it's weird thing too. You see characters in movies like do it. Like, I'm just gonna go drive around at night and like clear my
Yeah,
head, and look at the
yeah,
city lights and stuff. And like that shit is great. Like that shit, I get why people do that now because it's like
yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah,
But
you
like,
get all yeah, it's kind of lame if you talk about but like dude, I'm fucking Ryan Gosling right now. I'm just like in drive just and you play that night call. You're just
hell
like,
yeah,
yeah, I am a badass.
hell yeah, you got it,
And
man. Like, but then it's like, it gets to the point where you know I was having such a difficult time like trying to find parking that I fucking said I don't even want to take my car here. I'm gonna go take the metro, and fucking like, so I don't have to worry about parking. I don't have to I can just like fall asleep, fucking put my headphones on, and just get there and go.
totally.
It was like, that to me, because very seldomly did I actually need my car.
Yeah,
It was one of those things where it's just like I like having it type
for
thing.
sure. For sure. I think for me too, the car psychologically is like it's nice to have something where you feel like you're in control of it.
Yes.
This is my car. Like I'm directing where this is going. Like there's so much chaos in New York and things that are outside of your control, but like my freaking car, like yeah, feels good.
Well, I think that kind of like also reinforces a lot of the political differences to where it's like you know the right tends to preach like this rugged individualism and like less dependence on each other, on the government, on things like that, and it's like try to be your own vessel and things like that. To whereas the left kind of thinks everybody should be up in everybody's fucking business and like you
Yeah.
tell other people how to live or what kind of cars to fucking drive or anything like
Yeah.
that. So
Maybe
yeah,
the
I get
left
it.
is like public transit and the right is like, you know, solo
I don't mind. See, the
person
thing
in
is,
the
I don't mind public transit sometimes so much when it's like, again, the scenario like I don't feel like driving anywhere. I just want to put on my headphones and just fucking tap out.
Yep.
But then it's like you have to deal with, have you taken public transportation very often in New York or?
Yeah, I will use the subway, especially in Manhattan. So, Astoria and Queens is across the river, but if you're in Manhattan, the subway's cool. I view the subway as really and super convenient because the traffic is kind of a nightmare once you get into Manhattan. And yeah, it's just there's a kind of a different energy to me on the subway in Manhattan than the subway in Queens and Brooklyn. The subway in Queens and Brooklyn to me feels kind of shitty, and I'm just like, yeah. But in Manhattan, it's kind of exciting because people are maybe going to exciting places.
Right.
Uh, the women on the subway in Manhattan, gorgeous.
Oh
Not
yeah,
that I'm gawking, but dude, I noticed they look fucking great.
fucking gawk. Give a shit.
Or like the
What?
village, I so yeah, I do definitely like the subway more so in Manhattan and but primarily the car, I'd say.
It's nice. What's the wildest shit that you've experienced being in New York?
Oh gosh. Um
Anything.
yeah, the wildest shit. Um dude, I don't know. This isn't even that wild, but I was
Is
sitting
it
at a
because there's so much
Chipotle.
wild shit that goes on every day that it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
quantify anything?
kind of. And you get kind of like desensitized to it. Nothing really seems that wild.
Shit.
I
Shit.
don't know. I just thought of a guy. I was eating a Chipotle and I saw this really big fat guy just kind of waddle in front of the store, drop his pants, and just take a piss onto a tree in front of everyone. and his ass crack was out, and I was just like, snapped a photo, and I was like, okay, that's
Fun joke,
cool.
right?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of immigrant women with babies in backpacks selling candy bars, just wandering around the subway. It's not really that
Sure.
crazy. I wish I had something crazier. I haven't been mugged. I haven't seen anybody been.
Let's knock on wood here.
Yeah, it seems very safe. Like honestly, like I don't know, people seem to think there's a lot of violence and dangerous things. I think yeah, I haven't seen, I know there was
I
some
haven't
violence
experienced
at,
it.
was that Columbia in the news where those student protests a few months back. That was kind of crazy. I never went down there to see it, but yeah, I don't have a great answer. The wildest thing.
Well, just stick around, and eventually something will go down. I'm sure.
Hmm.
There was a lot of Giuliani. I guess whenever he went into office, kind of like cleaned the city up a lot. Like got rid of all the fucking like jack off movie theaters and like all the riffraff and just kind of cleaned the streets up a little bit. And it's this all the old guys in New York are like all the people that like lived in it like during the 70s when it was like fucking you go past a certain avenue, you fucking Avenue D, you're fucking dead, like
Yeah.
all this shit. And I think that's still like there's still some credence to that as well, but like you know they talk about this like New York as if it was like this mystical place of yore, to where it's like, oh yeah, you run the risk of getting shot or stabbed or something crazy like that, and it's like what's better? Is it better for it to be safe and like clean, sanitized, or this like again mystical like version of New York where it's like the fucking Wild West or
Yeah.
something like
And
that?
that's somehow like charming, like that it's this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in okay, for certain aspects, you know what? Like I don't like going and seeing like uh you know Chipotle, Bed Bath and Beyond, Walmart, Best Buy, things like that. That's a great thing about a city that's not nearly so gentrified is that you'll find like mom and pop like grocery stores, you'll find like small independent bookstores, things like that.
Yep. Tons of that.
Once a city gets in and gets its like its talons on a certain aspect of it, and I mean because I live in a very like conservative town, I would expect to live in a place like this if I had a wife and children and a family, things like that. I would want to live in a place like this. Being a single guy though fucking sucks because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
there's only shit to do here for families. And so when you go to these places where it's like everything's kind of sanitized, everything's kind of like toned down a little bit, again it's just it's family oriented, it's fucking boring. I hate to
Yeah.
say it, but it's fucking boring, like for a
Yeah.
single person to be in a family oriented city or surrounding is fucking boring.
Yeah, I agree. And no disrespect to the suburbia life, but I just got back from Michigan where my parents live and where I grew up, and I definitely made some comparisons that were fresh, just and one of the big things was, yeah, just the pace of everything is a little bit more chill. In a way, I can appreciate that,
Sure.
but also it is boring. It is a little more boring, and bed at 9 and go get some ice cream, or you know go to a strip mall, or
Yeah, go get crazy. Go
I
get some Vicks Vapor Rub from my feet.
yeah, yeah. And dude, I don't know, I'm a night owl now, and it's just like we our nights here, like you'll go to comedy shows in the evenings, and like you'll go to one show and then your friends have other shows, and you're so I'll tag along to that one, I'll
So
tag
you're just
along to
out
that
all
one.
fucking night.
Yeah, and you're just and driving, and that's the other thing. A lot of comics don't have cars, so like I'll give friends rides to different places. So we're
See,
jamming out.
that's where you definitely fucked up because now you're everyone's
I
taxi.
know. I know.
That's
I have to learn to set boundaries. This is what my therapist is trying to get. I'm just like, yeah, get in the car. Like we've had like 8 people in my car before. It was because I feel bad. Like, how can I get a ride? Can I get a ride? And then it's like packed in, and I'm like, fuck it, get in. and and then before you know it, like, dude, I went to bed at 5 a.m. this morning, like just because we were out. It was a friend's birthday, but
Okay. I can't do those anymore, man. I've tried and I've
yeah, you
tried and
can,
like
dude. How old are you?
41, but like
41?
no, like man, once you okay, I used to be able to have this like invincible like sleep schedule to where I could fucking just keep going and keep going and keep going and it'd be like 3 or 4 days and then I'd finally like fucking shut down. Like the machine would just automatically reboot, you know? But these days, man, like oh man, if I go to bed at like 2, I fucking feel it in the morning. I'll just wake up because I used to be able to do like 4, 5 hours of sleep. Can't no more, man. It's
Yeah, yeah,
you really start to like notice as you get older your body, like you it's
yeah,
something that you don't pay attention to as much as a kid because you're just like, whatever, but like you see how things start to affect you and you see like, this could not be good for my health. This could be detrimental. This is probably good for my health. And so you start to notice all those things and yeah, man, I can't do like late night
I
anymore.
think you can do
I
it
wish.
every once in a while.
I
Come
do,
come
and
visit,
I
and
pay for it.
we'll try and pull one of these nights.
Well, okay, I tell you what. When I was up in New York last, I was thinking about like extending my stay like an extra day, and because I called you up because you had just moved there, I think, and then I was like, maybe I could stay for another day, and I was so fucking tired, and like the parking garage charged me extra for like the night that I was staying there, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna leave, But definitely, I definitely got to get it back up to New York one of these days. We
Yeah,
should definitely do like a world, not world, but a city tour or something like that.
totally, totally. I'd
Yeah, man.
visited New York a handful of times before moving here, and as you're describing that, I do kind of remember thinking like the visits to New York seemed more exhausting. What's up, Chris?
Chris Filipino.
Yeah. The visits to New York seemed more tiring than it seems living here. It's like once you have like New York seems just like a place now, but I remember visiting and it feeling like kind of overwhelming because everything's a pain in the ass. Like, you're at your wherever you're staying, your hotel, and you're trying to, just figure stuff out. But yeah, um, yeah. Now it kind of just feels like another place. So
Yeah, you're conditioned to it to enough to where it just feels like you know, hey, I'm in New York, nothing fancy after a while, huh?
for sure, for sure.
Um, Now, like as far as like comedy goals, you said you're running the show, one night a week. What do you got like as far as upcoming performances are concerned? Who is up and coming comedians that we need to know about?
So in terms of shows coming up, the weekly show is the biggest one to know about. The bookings that I get are kind of random and independently booked. So I don't think I have a lot on for July, the rest of the July actually. So I don't have a lot to shout out, but I do have a comic to shout out, up and coming, that I think he's become a good friend of mine, Dean David. Um,
Okay.
Dean David 95 on Instagram, I believe, and it was actually yeah, it was his birthday yesterday. That's why we were out till so late. But he's a dude who has performed at the Comedy Cellar before. He just turned 29. So he's been doing stand up 10 years. He's a native New Yorker from Queens. And he's a dude that's just got this. He's extremely talented. He's got a lot of charisma. He's kind of found his identity as a comic. Um, very, very self assured, and is yeah, just wildly talented. And he hasn't quite broken through yet, but I think it's inevitable that he will. And he's he's easily my favorite comic that I know here, that I think is somebody to check out. And yeah, he got. I'll tell this story. Why not? I don't think Dean's going to listen to this, but he Louis C.K. saw him perform at the Cellar when during COVID. He got a guest spot and started to get some spots at the Comedy Cellar, and Louis C.K. saw him perform. And when he saw him perform, he looked to the other comics and was like, "You guys are all fucked because that guy's the guy." So I hope I don't embarrass Dean by mentioning that, but I was just like, dude, Louis C.K. is my idol, and that you always relish any
Throwing no
compliments you
confidence.
get from anyone, let alone like the god of stand up to a lot of us and the king. So he's just I really look up to him. So I that's the main guy I would shout out. There's a ton of people. Who else would I?
Did it feel weird though, having heard Louis C.K. say that, hey, this guy's gonna destroy you? A little bit of a slag.
Sure. Well, I wasn't there, but
Oh, you weren't there. Okay.
no, this was just this is a story about him, at the
Oh,
comedy.
this was years ago. Okay, okay,
This is probably 2019, 2020.
okay, okay.
So he's got something, he's got that, whatever
Yeah,
that X factor. He stands
yeah,
out
yeah.
amongst the lineup, like really thoroughly himself, very authentic. And that like authenticity, I think, is like huge. It's like almost the only thing that matters in stand
Right.
up to me.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, in life in general, like,
mhm.
I mean, just being, though it's like, you know, as far as like relationships are concerned, I always ask myself this question where I'm like, is being your authentic self in a situation, i.e., like a relationship, is that the best possible outcome? Yeah? You think so? I think people are constantly like, you know, whether it be relationships, business interactions, I think people are constantly lying to each other. And like our
Yeah,
society has encouraged it almost like, all right, put on this face for these people and like put on this face for these people and like, you know, uh
yeah,
I don't know. And the internet makes it so that, you can almost create this whole like persona. Like, I mean, you look at like influencers and YouTubers and things like that, to where it's like, okay, they're benefiting from this. Is this really who they are, though? They're making all this money. They're making like all this, this headway as far as getting people to notice their content. But is this who they really are? Is
right.
this authentic? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
A lot of times
It's
the answer is no, I think.
Well,
Uh,
it's benefiting them in that they're, making money off of it, or they're, whatever, they're able to get away with whatever they want to, tell to, their employers, their spouse, their, children, the parents, or whatever, like. So I don't, know, like I feel like there's like a level of like manipulation and lying when it comes to
yeah,
like,
for sure. I mean,
interacting in
I
that
kind of
in that
feel
fashion.
like the public is, I think authenticity is where things are going. Like, I think the whole anything fake or like quick hitting, I don't know. I kind of think and hope that will play itself out. People will kind of get sick of it. I mean, I see it in comment sections a lot. Like, I don't know if you ever, like, you'll see funny videos on Instagram and then comments will be like, oh, that's fake, staged AF. Like, everybody's like, oh, well, sometimes it's like, well, they were acting something out. It was a sketch. So, like, you missed the point. But I don't know. I think people like authentic moments, authentic things. And like, they're like, okay, like things. Sometimes you'll go back and watch movies. I remember like Along Came Polly. I remember I used to really think that movie was funny, and then I watched it recently, and I was like, some of this stuff is corny as shit. Like, did not age well. I'm just like, why did people legitimately like these jokes? And I'm wondering. It's so interesting how the consciousness of like just the general consciousness is like
Well, the jokes were
maybe.
always the same. It was you that changed.
Yeah, yeah, that must be it. I really wonder about that.
The
Like, and
jokes
then I look
always
at the
sucked. You just realized it.
yeah, and then some movies I'll go back and I'll watch them and be like, those aged really well. And then I'm like, wait, I see the points, the more meaningful points that the movie was making that I didn't even notice. Like 20 years ago, I just enjoyed the movie, but now I'll watch and be like, holy shit, I see how the character is struggling with these things. Like, what's a movie as an example? Anger Management with Adam Sandler and Jack
Never seen
Nicholson.
that.
Uh, oh, dude, it's a great movie. But yeah, and that aged really well. I think it's so funny, classic Sandler slapstick jokes, and but it's about a guy who learns to stand up for himself, and let out all of his emotions and be, learn to be a tough, formidable person in the world instead of being a little pussy bitch. And then Jack Nicholson's helping him do it. Oh, so funny, so funny.
Right.
But and very, yeah. So
Um, do you feel like your comedy is improving? Like, do you feel like, getting out into the big city has helped you increase your confidence? Do you feel like a noticeable surge in your performance energy? And do you feel like you can control the room more? Is it coming to that?
yeah, yeah. In terms of just the skills of being on stage and being more relaxed on stage, um, that definitely improves when you're here. And I'd say the material, I don't know. Um, in terms of material, I don't know how much material I've generated in the last year. It's kind of been a lot of talking about what's on my mind, and trying to really, it's less about what I'm saying and more about trying to really say what I mean uh in that show. Like I'll sometimes go up without, like last night I went up and told stuff I never said before and just told a story because I thought that was more valuable to me than doing jokes and working on jokes. I just want to work on. No, I just want to,
Sure.
I have this on my mind. So let me see if I can just confidently tell this to people without fear of if it's going to work or not. Um, and that's, that's not something I did a ton in South Carolina. And I do feel like I've improved, but also like South Carolina is a great comedy scene, and there's a lot of really great shows down there. I'll go back and watch clips of sets I've done in the past, and they were really good, and they were really fun. And like I don't notice much of a discernible difference if I watch some of those really, those good ones down there. So I kind of, that was a lesson too. Moving here was kind of like comedy's the same everywhere. It's just human beings in a room listening to you. So even though it's New York, there's no reason to psych yourself out and be like, oh crap, it's New York. Like the thing, you need to
Right.
just be like, okay, this is just another show. And I need to
Yeah.
worry about being myself. I don't need to change who I am to make myself good enough to be on New York. No, you're good enough as you are if you believe that. And then the audience will go along with you. Like they will, if you're sure of yourself and they can feel that energy from you, they'll relax and they'll be on board for whatever you want to do. So it's really more about this like Jedi mind thing. You have to be
Yeah.
on your game
Yeah.
consistently. And that's more important, I think, for me than, than necessarily
The actual,
exactly what you're saying or the jokes
sure.
themselves. It's,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, just the ability to keep getting out there and doing it, and I mean, shit, you're gonna come to a point where there's like, fucking packed like auditorium or something like that, and it ain't even gonna fucking phase you. You're just gonna get
Yeah.
out there and be like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Sometimes
here we
those
go.
bigger pack shows are much easier.
Bigger
Because
energy. There's
and
way
the
more
energy
like,
coalesces into one
yeah.
thing, and then you can just say your jokes. And
I've heard that before, that comics sometimes they'll feel like they can perform better at a bigger show versus a smaller show because like a bigger, well, shit, I don't know. You think about it, like a bigger show, there's more margin for fuck, like if you fuck up, everybody's going to fucking like notice it. But like if you kill, like it's like a big collective like thing,
mhm.
but like a smaller room, fuck, your reactions
Yeah,
aren't going to be, even if you get like a big reaction, it's
yeah,
still not, it still wouldn't equal what you would get like, in a stadium type thing or
totally.
like an amphitheater type thing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I
in a
mean,
big room, if you got 60% of the people in the room of like 200 to laugh, it's gonna sound pretty good. And but if you have like five people, you need all five of them. Like you need to be
yeah,
like eye contact, like make sure they're with you, feel that you're, yeah.
Got to be all
Yeah,
on your team.
you got to
Do you think your
connect
comedy
somehow.
will ever become more like New York centric? Like, what's the deal with all these parking tickets? They're ridiculous to me, and they towed my car when I was gone.
No,
Like,
dude, I'm stuck with what I have, dude. I can't change. Like I'm just, I don't know. I'm just goofy, like trying to figure shit out. And yeah, I mean, I have
would you
talked
go for
about the
like
parking
20
tickets.
minutes?
What's
If they were
that?
like, if they were like, David, do a 20-minute set?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I have enough stuff that definitely. I think.
You have, can you do clean and dirty?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. I'd have to think. I'd have to think about it. Uh, some of my jokes rely on my emotional response to something. Like I'll get really worked up and be like very animated, and then I'll drop f bombs and be like, "What the fuck about this? Like it's fucking bullshit." Wait, and then I would have to check myself and be like, "What the frick?" or what the
Yeah, yeah.
shut the front door." I don't
It's
know what I'd
it's
say.
it
I but yeah, I
it
could go clean. Yeah, yeah.
it's a difficult thing to do, certainly. Now, let's because I always ask this, being an entertainment and like a media guy, um, what the fuck did you tell me to watch last time and I still haven't watched it?
Rory
Um,
Scovel,
no, I've seen Roy Scovel. Uh,
Joe List,
no, it was a MacGruber.
MacGruber. Yes, did you
Yeah,
watch it,
I need to watch this. I
dude?
need to watch it because you told me about it, and I completely slipped my mind, and I couldn't even remember the fucking title. But now I need to watch it. What are you watching, sir? As far as like TV, movies. What are you reading? What do you got?
Well, I actually talked about this on stage recently that I feel like I'm running out of content, like out of shit. I've seen everything. I feel like I
Really?
haven't. I mean, I don't know about anime and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I don't really want to go down that road.
Shit,
I
man, go on Tubi. You'll fall into a rabbit hole of just like Italian slasher movies. Like
yeah,
you'll yeah, there'll be plenty of stuff. See, people are like, "There's nothing to watch." I'm like, "There's shit that I
yeah,
want to watch. I don't know if I'll have time in my life to
yeah.
watch."
I'd say the two big obsessions I've had recently, uh, Kanye West. Huge fan of his music, and I watched the Genius documentary on Netflix. Have you seen that?
No.
It's been on there a few years, but I highly recommend any person watch that. It was fascinating. It's a documentary. Have you heard of it?
I'm very familiar with Kanye West, but no, I have not seen the documentary.
Dude, this made me just fell in love with the guy. But he this was his early days when he was a up and coming rapper in Chicago, and his buddy, they would do these. I don't know. They followed him around with a camcorder, and you see Kanye before he becomes famous, and you see the progression of what it took just that for him to break through, and the type of person he was before and after, and the amount of self belief he had, and the courage, and he kind of went from this like dorky guy who made beats and looked really awkward and was just kind of like, who is this guy? And people would kind of like take advantage of him. They knew he was really good at making beats, so these other rappers that were above him would be like, Kanye, I need you to, I want to collab. I need you to make a beat I can rap over. And then there's a scene where he's in a car and this guy's telling him that, and he's like, I'm gonna need you to do that for like nothing, no money up front, no money. He's like, is that a problem? He's like, yeah, that
People
is
do
a
that to me
problem.
now. I just laugh at them. I'm like, okay.
Good. Good. That's the lesson. Yeah. And you see Kanye like he's kind of like a soft guy and like he's sensitive, but he's like, no, bitch, I got something to say. Like
Right.
I want to write my music, but I'm not just trying to produce beats for other people. I have something to say. I have art I want to get out there and I want to rap over these beats and wait till you fucking hear it. And then you see him step into his confidence. And then I think the relationship Kanye has with his mother in that movie is very, it was really poignant. I don't know.
Is it like a documentary or is it an actual
Documentary.
theatrical film? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So you literally see his mother talking to Kanye, and you see how much his mother loves him and
Mhm.
supports him, and and just totally believes in him, and also gives him some really sage advice about like um, how to be, you know, how to be like a big presence, but also keep your feet on the ground. Uh,
Mhm.
she said something like the giant looks in the mirror and sees nothing. And I remember that quote from her. And yeah, very inspiring. And then when you see Kanye break through with Rockefeller Records and go on stage and represent Chicago and like step up and not be like, oh yeah, I'm privileged to be here. Be like, no, bitch, I'm fucking Kanye. Like, and to see him believe in himself and see
Yeah,
it work, it was really beautiful.
I'm gonna have to
And then
check it
after
out.
seeing that, you go back and listen to the music, and it hits you in a way that's like, okay, that's really beautiful.
To be honest, man, I did not really appreciate Kanye until probably the past few years, because I will say that like I think he's probably one of the most misunderstood artists in music in general. And like, for somebody that deals with bipolar, like I kind of see like all the things that he struggles with and all the things that he deals with, and I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. I totally understand that, And so to see somebody like be able to be successful in spite of all, the things that may have set them back, and I can sympathize with that too. Like
Yeah,
that's pretty common in the hardcore scene, is to people like, hey, it fucking happened to me the other day, actually. These young kids came and were like, we want you to design us a logo. And so we did. And they were like, oh, yeah, we don't really like this. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to kind of pay my artist for his time, and shit like that. And they
yeah,
didn't really want to do that. I had to be assertive and shit and be like, look, you owe me money. And like,
yeah,
that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're starting out too. I
yeah,
don't know. I mean, like comedians, I'm sure have played like, plenty of open mics and free shows to where they don't get shit, and so
yeah,
that's it's almost like a rite of passage. But then you get to a point where it's like, okay, I can afford to ask people to pay me, because
yeah,
you're not going to pay me anyway.
yeah,
And so, you want my services, I'm going to ask for money. And if you decide to compensate me, great. If you don't,
yeah,
nothing ventured, nothing gained, like
yeah,
I didn't even make the assertion that I wanted to be paid for it, so of course I'm not going to be paid for it. But you add that in a factor, and then they don't pay you, well then fuck them, like.
yeah,
So it's hard because it's like, you want to get your name out there, you want to get shit out there, you want people to recognize you and shit like that, and sometimes that takes like free shit, but
yeah, yeah. You have to maybe do a little bit of that, but that's a good point about some comics just gave the because the show that we've started running since January on a weekly basis. Right now, it is a free show, but there's a school of thought that says no, charge something for tickets because by charging, you're saying like no, this is worth the price of admission. This we respect ourselves enough and the value of this show to say that we think it's worth $10 of your time or 20,
right.
and it kind of elevates what the show and shows you have you yeah, it's like self-respect.
There's
It's like
there's
begging
also
for
this.
something or being like yeah,
Sure, there's also this psychology of like people think that if you're not charging them for something, they're like, what's wrong with this? Is it defective? Like, are they not charging me because this is not very good and they just want people to show up type thing,
yeah,
Or, so the simple psychology of like, say, oh, we'll charge people $5, like $5, that's like nothing, and then people are like, oh, $5. Well, it's not that much, but it's not like completely free either. So, there might be some it's a weird thing that our
yeah,
brain does where we like assign value to things that,
sure. Yeah, people
maybe
don't
have
appreciate things
little.
that are given to them for free. Um, and yeah, you got to know your worth and stand up for it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's a lot you try to learn here too. Asking for things is another thing. You got to ask for opportunities, and with stand up, that can be kind of a mind fuck too, because you are the product. So if you feel you're
Right.
worthy, you will ask. If you don't, you might not. So it's like, yeah, you got to do
It's
that.
that's the biggest thing about being in the arts and entertainment field too, is that, people are like, well, what a narcissistic field to be in, and it's like, we don't really want want it to be that way. It's just, yes, we are the product, so we have to put like effort into making ourselves look like the best fucking possible product that we can.
Yep.
And does that require a level of narcissism? I don't know, but like,
That
it
is
is what
the,
it is for
yeah.
this whole career field.
Yeah. Yeah, I struggle with that all the time. Because the temptation is to be like, "Ah, I'm a piece of shit." I don't know. I don't know. Like, who am I to ask for your time and money? Uh, what a douchebag. But yeah, it's a really interesting kind of paradox though. Like, but at the end of the day, it's about making people laugh. So, you
Anybody you
know,
want to shout out?
um, yeah, go my Instagram, David Bakker 7. Please follow that. OnlyFriends comedy. Um, all one word with an underscore. It's linked on my Instagram page. And then my podcast, I did this instead of killing myself, on hiatus, but coming back soon. I'm gonna say it's coming back soon. Um, and yeah, that's about it. But
Nice.
yeah, man.
And Alexis Ramirez.
Sure, sure. She's ASAP Angry on Instagram. She's also linked on the OnlyFriends comedy page. So yeah,
Awesome.
check that out. I post stand-up clips occasionally. There's content on my page, and I've been trying to like post a little less just because I'm fatigued with social media, but I'm not like shutting it down or anything. So you can
We
still
we had
find
this
out where I am.
conversation.
But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. God, that self-promotion again. It's
It sucks, but yeah, it's
sucks.
one of those things where it's just the nature of the fucking beast.
Yeah, for sure.
It
For
sucks.
sure.
But uh well, dude, I can't wait. Do you got any new sets up online? Any like full sets, or you just got clips?
Oh, my YouTube channel as well has some stuff. There are a
Okay.
couple of sets on there from South Carolina and
Anything in New
all.
York?
No, I haven't
Oh.
posted. Dude, I know you're calling me out. Dude, I'm such a pussy about posting my own stand up. I want it to be like there's plenty of stuff I could, but
What's the issue? You feel like it's too over-aggrandizing, or
uh, it's the perfectionism of wanting it to be, I like this could be better. This could be,
okay,
yeah, 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 yeah.
cool. All right.
But no,
Well,
you're calling me out. I'll
well, no,
post
I
some
was just
stuff,
curious.
Jay.
I was curious for my own personal viewing, but no, I mean we'll be sure to post like the YouTube channel down here, and all your links to all your social media and stuff like that, and
Thanks
yeah,
so much.
and we'll post to the free show all the info on that, um, and one thing that I like to do before we go, I have a merchandise company called Hell's Heart Merch Co. As you can see at the bottom there, hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use the code 20 for 20% off your entire order. Let me throw some samples up here. There, we got some bullet action. We've got some Black Flag action. Psycho 2, Scream, and more Scream. They're both glow in the darks, folks. Everything's
Jay,
on
by the
sale
way,
20%.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I get a lot of. I'm wearing one of your shirts now, the tea and
Yeah,
fuckery
man, I
one.
saw that.
I
Yeah.
love this T-shirt. And then
People remark on it, huh?
yeah, well, the other one that you gave me, I get a lot of comments on the one with the Indiana
The
Jones
face.
guy. It's like black with
Oh,
red.
Mola Ram. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Molar Ram. Yeah,
They love that,
people
huh?
love that T-shirt here, dude. I owe
Dude,
you one. I look super cool. Like I look very Brooklyn when I have that thing on. I'm like
you look
not the
you
dorky
look like you're
Midwest.
from Williamsburg or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly.
um, let them know, man. I got like a handful of designs left, and once I sell out, I don't know if I'm gonna make it again, but appreciate that. And I'll send you a new shirt too with the new podcast logo and everything. But dude, I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and I'm always happy to see where you're at. And like I said, going to New York's a huge step, man. And I was really happy when I heard you do that, man, because like that's a big it's a big commitment to go somewhere that's foreign and unfamiliar to you, and try to make it up there. So man, props to you. I respect and appreciate you, and hopefully we'll get to see I did this instead of killing myself coming back one of these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, dude. Jay, thanks so much for having me. This was great. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Hang out in the back for a little bit too. Like we always do, like kind of a post game chop up. Everybody that tuned into the show, I appreciate you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications, and buy some shit. That would really be appreciated. I think that would be so awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. God bless. Be good. David Baker. It's been real, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everybody.